Slide. Okay. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. As many of you know, the Community Air Monitoring Network is a project and partnership between EPC, the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County, the Hillsborough County Transportation Planning Organization, the University of South Florida, and the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association, serving as a community consultant. The project uses low-cost air sensors in underserved communities near interstates to measure air pollution where people live, work, and gather, provide public access to air quality data, share low cost, and monitors to regulatory monitors and inform urban planning and policies that improve air quality equitably. The coalition plays a key role in advancing these goals by bringing together community members and stakeholders to learn, share experiences, and collaborate on air quality efforts in Hillsborough County. We meet quarterly, and this is our third meeting. If you're interested in past discussions from previous meetings, you can find those on our project website under past presentations and events. And if you're interested in any of that, just reach out to me afterwards and I'd be glad to share that information. A quick housekeeping. For those that are in the room here, the restrooms are located just to the right of me through the door. The Wi-Fi is available by logging in the credentials on that plaque by the restroom sign door. And we will be sharing a Teams link, or within the chat, I'll be sharing a link to materials that you'll need later on in the meeting. So click on the link that I've just shared in the chat, and you'll be able to find all the meeting materials that way. Just to repeat, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared at a later date. So tonight's or this evening's main topic is focused on will be led by the University of South Florida and by Dr. Amy Stewart, and graduate student Serena Eccles will be leading the presentation and activity. With that, I'll just go ahead and introduce those that I see joining us online virtually. And if you could, for those who are joining us virtually, as I introduce your names, just as I see them appear on the screen, if you could just share in the chat where you're from, what kind of brought you to the project, what interest you have in the project, and just include that. But I see Yongpong joining us, Jocelyn, who are part of our project team, and as well as Alana Stevens, who's a part of the project team, and Marcella, wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us. I see Paul, and Paul is a community member for the Hillsborough County Community College. Hi, Paul, great to see you. Mohammed, it's good seeing you. I see David's note taker AI, but maybe David's on the next page. Let's see. James Shirk, good seeing you. Courtney Wright, thank you, Courtney, for being here. Brian Knox, Serena Eccles. With that, I want to go ahead and turn it now to
Why don't we do introductions?
in-person introductions. Yes. I am Wyatt Birchall, and I'm managing this community air monitoring network. I work with the Transportation Planning Organization, and been here for about a little more than a year now.
I'm Michelle Jenkins. I'm with the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County. We are a proud partner to work with USAID, TPO, and community partners on this great project.
I can go next. I'm Kelly Fearon with Kittleton, and we're providing support to the TPO for this project.
I'm Amy Stewart. I'm a professor at the University of South Florida, and my research team is a partner in this project.
Amy Green, and we are proud to be community partners with this project.
Good evening, Sarah Caper. I'm with the Hillsborough TPO.
Good evening, my name is Nancy Bird and I'm with New World Brewery. We have two new monitors that are in place.
But maybe Wyatt, before we move forward, let's just do a check-in to make sure we didn't miss anyone who's online, might have joined us since we did introductions or accidentally skipped over you. Was there anyone online we might have missed? Not hearing me. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And also just a note, if you are virtual, throughout the meeting, I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you're having any issues, just feel free to let me know in a direct message, and then I'll work the best I can to resolve that. Ms. Green, would you like to share update?
Yeah, that would be great. You're back the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, those who are remote and those who are here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this effort. We know that the air that we breathe is something that's very important. We can't live without our air. And learning more about the quality and the things that impact the air is really, really important. We are hoping that with our participation at the community level to encourage many more communities to join this effort and be a part of learning about our air. For Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association, we are particularly interested in getting children to understand about the air and having them learn that studying the air is a part of their, what could be their future in engineering, science, and all of the related fields. So I encourage all community folks to be a part of this awesome effort and to join us as we learn more and share with our communities. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much, Lena. We'll go ahead, Amy, if you're ready to start the presentation, and then we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. I really am enjoying this project with this whole team. I'm really thinking a lot about air quality and how we can learn more about air quality and do better to make our communities healthier. Today's coalition meeting, we're going to focus our activity on learning how to use the community air monitoring network data to answer questions you may have about air quality that affects you and your community. All right, so an important purpose of this network is to engage community members in using data to address issues involving air quality in your neighborhoods, and particularly those related to transportation. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has been supporting efforts like this, initiatives like this network that enhance the depth of public involvement and public participation in environmental management. And the first quote that I just pulled up here demonstrates that goal of enhancing empowerment of local communities in policy and management decisions through access to data and training on its use. A similar concept in the research world that I'm in is this idea of citizen science, which is really defined as the practice of public collaboration in scientific research through which people can share and contribute to data monitoring and collection programs. So in that context and that purpose, today we're going to focus on how the network data can be used to answer your questions about air quality. We'll start with a brief review of some air quality concepts and what the network is doing to provide data on neighborhood air quality impacted by transportation. And then we'll do an activity looking at that network data together. All right, so I know a lot of you have been on one of these before. How many of you have been at a coalition meeting before? So you probably heard a little bit on the basics of air quality. So if you have, don't worry, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But we are going to just go through a little bit to get the rest of you dangerous. All right. All right. So first of all, why is air quality important? Why do people think air quality is important? Why do we care about it?
Health affects their health.
It affects our health, great. Anything else? Anything, you are particularly concerned about? Anyone's particularly concerned about?
Environment.
Environment in general, absolutely. All right, yeah, so kind of going to, one of the big reasons we care about air quality is because of the health impacts of poor air quality, right? We don't want to be breathing bad air that may affect us. Some health impacts that have been associated with poor air quality include things like respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, things like asthma, even some lung cancers. And heart disease is one of the more, is one of the things that we can be most concerned about. Very poor air quality can have an effect on that and lead to premature death. So we want to keep our air healthy. And so there's a lot of effort being done to make sure that's the case. And if we add to that, not just the health effects, but thinking about the fact that there are populations that are susceptible and vulnerable to poor air quality, that, where they need even better air quality than the general public. And some of those populations are populations that we are concerned about, such as seniors. Seniors are more susceptible to the effects of poor air quality, children and infants. People who have chronic diseases, such as other lung diseases or diabetes, and then people who are active outside in general. So this aspect of health effects in susceptible populations is really the big reason why we want to make sure we all have good air quality. This project is particularly focused on traffic-related air pollution so that it can help inform transportation planning. Does anyone know what TRAP is? What does it mean when we say transportation-related air pollution or TRAP?
I think it's related to the transportation.
Yeah, it's pollution that comes from transportation. Usually we're talking about roadways, right? So that's usually kind of the idea. Pollution that is higher near roadways. So it's a mix of lots of different pollutants. It's not one thing. And these pollutants are emitted from roadway vehicles. They're emitted from other activities as well, but they are emitted from roadway vehicles. And they tend to be highest within about 300 meters to 1,000 feet of a road, though it depends on the particular pollutant and the meteorological conditions. And what are some important pollutants for those of you who have been here before? What are some of the important pollutants that we think about when we think about transportation related?
Particulates.
Particles, absolutely, yeah. NOx, yeah, great. And those are the ones we focus on in this network. So some of this sort of mix of pollutants that are in what we call transportation related air pollution are particles, fine particles that can get deep into your lung, coarse particles, ultra fine particles, even smaller, and things like black carbon. Those are terms that you might hear in the air pollution world. Nitrogen oxides that are formed when you combust fuel at high temperatures. Carbon monoxide, volatile organic carbon, and metals. All these come from either combustion of fuel, evaporation of fuel and other solvents, or breaking entire wear. All right, so we focus in our network, measuring fine particles and NO2, nitrogen dioxide particularly. And this is because they're important to health. They're important indicators of transportation-related air pollution, and because they can be measured with small air pollutant sensors that we can put in lots of places, and therefore get a better picture of local air quality. The network uses these two sensors, the Clarity Node S and the Purple Air 2. They're small, and hold them in your hand, with 2 hands for the clarity. And they measure air pollution at community sites. Once the data are collected, it's available in real time through websites to the public. And we see here, this is just a snapshot of one of the websites, the Clarity website, showing where there are Clarity monitors throughout and regulatory monitors. To judge the quality of the air and its healthfulness, the level of pollutants in the air is measured by these devices. Has anyone looked at the Canon data and wondered about some of the terms that are on there? Like, you see something like microgram per meter cubed. Anyone done any exploration? No, not yet, maybe, but maybe you will. All right, well, so microgram per meter cubed is a unit, which is basically just how we measure the quantity, how much there is of a pollutant. And these levels are compared to levels known to be important to health. And they are then translated into the air quality index, which is the main indicator we're going to focus on here. The air quality index is what's the default on these maps, and you can see that here in green. And in the bottom left corner of the maps, you'll see a scale that talks about the air quality index. The air quality index is basically used to communicate the quality of the air and to provide guidelines for how people should respond to different air quality levels. The table here shows the index levels for the first few air quality index categories. So you can see, so for instance, the green category, this is when it's green, that says, well, the air quality is satisfactory. It's a great day to go and be outside. We move on to yellow. That is where the air quality is acceptable. However, there may be more risk for some people who are particularly vulnerable, and they should think about their activities outside. And if we move to orange, then that's called unhealthy for sensitive groups. And those groups should reduce prolonged and heavy exertion outside. That's, they're helpful to do that. You can find the same information that we have on this table on the websites themselves. When you look at the data in the lower left corner, there's the scale that kind of tells you what does that air quality index mean. And you'll be looking at that later today. And it gives basically the same types of information on, ways that you can understand what does that mean to you and how you might want to think about what to do about it when that happens. There are higher level categories going from red, to very kind of a deep maroon. Those are rare. We don't see a lot of those at all. But it's important to at least have looked at those as well, because it does those at that point you want to start having sort of the general population think about what they're doing outside. The information on these scales, as I said, is on the maps themselves, but also you can look in the Community Air Monitoring Network guidebook and its appendices, which also provides some detailed information on this. Okay, so now that we've reviewed some basics, we're going to get to what we're doing here today. We're going to talk about the types of questions that we hope to address through this network, what we're trying to do and trying to understand more about through the network. So those questions are, what are levels of traffic-related air pollution in underserved neighborhoods near interstate corridors? Are levels of traffic in these neighborhoods potentially concerning for health? And we want to be able to contribute to that, answering that question. Are levels of transportation-related air pollution in these neighborhoods well represented? We have regulatory monitors in our county, and they're trying to do their best to get at what the levels of air pollution are that people are exposed to. How well are they able to capture the neighborhood level? And are there places where we might need to have additional reference monitors, and for which pollutants, right? So that we can be protected against them. Another question we'd like to contribute to is, how do the roadway corridors affect levels, and how do they measure, do the roadway corridors measurably affect those levels in the neighborhoods near them? And then finally, how accurate and useful are the distributed monitoring data for informing community planning and other air quality management decisions? This project is, this aspect of a distributed community air monitoring network is a new thing. The sensors themselves are fairly new, and so there's a lot of development going on that we want to learn by, so that potentially this kind of initiative could expand even further here and in other places. All right, so those are the questions. We're going to do an activity where we are looking at those questions, and we're going to be breaking into groups to delve deeper into the questions above. You'll be selecting a question topic, one of those questions that you'll explore, and you're going to identify your own more specific form of that question, using the data to help you answer it, and discussing what you find with your team, and then reporting back to the broader coalition. Each group will have a facilitator and a note taker from the staff team, and your facilitator will be there to help guide the conversation. But it's a group activity. You want the group members to drive the questions and the data exploration, and there'll be an activity instruction sheet to follow. Don't worry, facilitators are there to make it be easy for you to do. And you'll determine a spokesperson to report back to the coalition. And that's basically the idea of the activity. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to, is it Sarah?
Yep, so, as we speak right now, if you are online, we are dividing you into online groups. So if you're in an online group, you'll be with other people who are also online. And when we start the activity, you'll go into your breakout groups, and we'll bring you back to the group as a whole when it's done. In the room, we're going to be one big group. So all of us in the room will do the activity together, and we'll also get brought back in. When you go online, depending which group you're in, your facilitator will either be Serena or Young, and your note takers will be Alana or Jocelyn, depending on which online group you're in. And here in the room, Amy's going to lead our group, and Kelly's going to be the note taker. So we also have Lena, who's going to be around to help for us in the room, and we have some of our team here as well. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And Wyatt, if you could break us out on the breakout groups, and we'll go ahead and get started with the activity.
All right, so everybody in this room, let's try to kind of maybe gather together a little bit more.
It looks like we're all still together.
I'm signing them.
Okay, so just a moment, online people, you will be in your room momentarily. We'll give him a moment to get your rooms assigned. Thanks, everyone. I think we're all back. We'll give people a second or two, and then we'll continue on.
Or yeah, you know what? You want?
I had
That might be a group, exactly. I don't even know about that.
Amy's gonna lead us through sharing our group findings.
Okay. All right, well, I hope you guys got a little, got your feet a little wet in exploring the data and learning what the websites can do for you. So what we want to do is have everybody kind of share what they did and what they found and when they did it. So we'll start with what question did your group explore? So we'll have the spokespeople tell us this. What question did you explore? What answers did you find? And what were 2 or 3 things that stood out to you in doing this. And I'm gonna pick on Ina. No? Oh, Naya. Okay. All right, we'll have Naya start. So tell us, what did you explore and what did you find?
Well, Miss Lena's question. So we wanted to look more into what is the health impact on the air quality from the current construction that is happening near our building with the highway expansion? And just visibly, because we can see all of, the dust and the, things in the air. So it leads you to think like there has to, if we don't know the term, there's something in the air that's, not good. So that was kind of our question. And then we looked into with the Clarity and the Purple Air Monitor. We got a little bit more information with the Clarity one, just because we also learned that our Purple Air may not be connected to Wi-Fi or something, so we have to go and make sure that that's connected so we can capture that data. But with the Clarity, you're able to kind of see the trends over the day, the week, the month, and the year, and we can actually see that there has been some fluctuation in the air quality, and we can actually pinpoint to the day when they started doing the construction is where there was a peak. So that kind of confirmed what we do. So looking forward to connecting the Purple Air so we can get even more data and see what that.
Anything else that stood out for you? Questions that have made you, brought up new questions?
So as we look at the comparison, and it wasn't really clear what we had concluded. So now our thought is now we have to go back and see maybe what other contributing factors. We thought we tied it into the demolition, but maybe there are some other things there, and we're not quite sure, so possibly looking at other causes that might affect the air quality.
But it's kind of nice to see that, you see something in the air, right? And then you see something in the data that says, okay, that, you might be, that's capturing what you're feeling. Nancy, you're the spokesperson for this. If you don't mind, tell us what did you explore and what did you find?
We picked C, do the roadway corridors measurably affect levels of traffic pollutants in these neighborhoods. So our question was, do the highway walls that are there to mitigate noise, do they change the air quality near the highways, for the homes and businesses near the highway? And whether or not those walls help or hinder the air quality. And our hypothesis was that the particulate matter will be lower with the walls, outside of the walls, for the houses then, businesses there. And the neighborhoods where there is no wall, we looked at the data and we were able to put the pieces of data over top of each other and interlay them over top of each other. And so the more northern, naturally New World Brewing is one of the more northern spots that we had data on. And a more southern spot was Hillsborough High School and Robles Park. And we also looked at Sulphur Springs Elementary School. And so we could lay those grids right over top with the Clarity, yes. And when you first looked at each one individually, you had no idea that they were the same. We started out by counting the spikes that were over 50. And we counted 12 in Sulphur Springs and 12 in Robles Park. But then when we learned we could lay those over top of each other, it was remarkable how similar the air quality was in looking at a year's time. So, and our hypothesis, I think, is correct that it's improved with the walls there. the air quality outside of the walls where there are, those noise walls was better.
So you saw something to support what you were thinking.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move to, online.
Do we have a group? I don't know.
Okay, so Serena, and why don't you start first and have your group spokesperson report back?
Okay, I'm our group spokesperson. Um, so the question that we looked at was question A, what are the levels of trap in underserved neighborhoods near the interstate corridors? Are levels of trap in these neighborhoods potentially concerning for health? And so the topic that we came up with, and I'll explain this a bit deeper, is the levels of trap in underserved neighborhoods. So the Department of Health this week had a meeting about community health improvement plan, and a lot of people were concerned about the built environment and how it's affecting their health. And they're really looking for actionable items and brought up our coalition, which is good because it's getting a bit of recognition for the work that is to come in the future in finding data analysis. So the question that we created are, what are the health outcomes of poor air qualities? So for our group hypothesis, we said that exposure during rush hour is higher than the non-peak hours, and that this has a direct, or it has an effect on the public health of people that live in areas that are affected. So the sites that we used as comparison sites, we used the Tampa Heights site, and we used the EPC Sydney location as our other site. And in doing the research in those, we noticed that Tampa Heights has much more moderate air quality than EPC, and EPC has much more good air quality than the Tampa Heights location. And we just noticed that this is probably because of the traffic proximity and also construction that's going on near Tampa Heights.
Great, right. And so you're comparing a place that's near a roadway and undergoing construction to a place that's meant as a background site. All of these things. So to see that bit. Anything else that stood out for your group in the exploration?
That was really our main thing.
Great, and then we have Yama. Why don't you have your spokesperson talk?
Yeah, we have talk to talk with our findings in our group.
Hi, everybody. We found, or we did a topic on basically, or I guess our question was how closely related the air quality is during peak rush hour times compared to the city or the Sydney location to the HEC Ybor campus. So we overlaid the two sites, and we see that most of the time the Ybor City campus has worse air quality than the Sydney station. So, answer confirmed.
Anything else that people want to share that stood out to them in the data exploration?
I think the interesting thing is that they are really pretty well correlated. Like every spike is met with a spike, every trough with a trough. So, that is kind of interesting that, whenever pollutants go up, they kind of go up everywhere, maybe.
Personally.
Whenever they go down everywhere.
See that, like that would also indicate quality of the different monitors that's really showing you similar outcomes.
Yeah, and also, what do you think, in addition to the sort of emissions from the roadways that we're looking at or the construction, what other types of things might affect air quality? What do you think some other things that might affect air quality? Why would they go up and down?
Oh, and the weather.
The weather, that's definitely affects air quality. And, when, there are certain times of day, for instance, it's rush hour, that's when there's more traffic everywhere, right? So you see the signals going up and down together, kind of, they're not entirely together, but kind of having a similar pattern. Because they're both experiencing similar things that affect air quality. Okay, so let's go on to the picture.
I was gonna mention one thing about some of the neighborhoods that are underserved, that, have marked or difficult air quality. And they also have higher percentage of premature births and, so the maternal fetal outcomes are worse in those neighborhoods because of the air quality.
Yeah, and having data.
One reason.
You know, I mean, that's one of the things that is kind of a downstream possibility for data like this is, when, can we use it to be looking at what are the effects and how does that correlate? It's associated with air quality and, we're not at that place yet with this type of data, but that's things that could be done, and that is done with BPC's data, right? People do studies where they have data from the regulatory network and they look at how is it associated with different in the area. So
One of the things that we have been really concentrating on is, and I don't know how that's measured, but the impact of trees as opposed to the concrete walls. And that's something that we are really, really interested in because we know somewhere that trees help to clean the air. So when you talked about Seminole Heights and Robles Park, I would like to know how many trees are over there and
or you could even look at, recently had a bunch of trees planted, right? So you could look before and after. There may not be a note, a discernible signal what it might be, but you could look at what was it like before.
Actually, like what it was before and what it is since we lost so much of the tree canopy
Right.
during the storm. So, yeah.
You could look at that.
You could, just planting the trees is gonna take a long time to get to what they were, but you could certainly see a difference in the tree canopy loss, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and you have to think about that when you're looking at the data, right? Well, what else happened?
Yeah.
And that might have had an impact to make sure that you're thinking about. Trying to infer and conclusions. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where we're at kind of the reflection on the activity. So individually, if you could all kind of just think about these questions here, and then we'll share back to the group. What did you learn from the activity? What surprised you the most? Were there any patterns that you noticed that you were expecting or not expecting? How useful was the data you found in answering your question? What information might you still need? You still want? And how might you use the data to inform others? How might you give some outreach for this network and saying, tell other people they might be able to use the data for their purposes? And are there actions that you recommend based on what you've done? I mean, we did only have a short time, so a lot of this would take more time to be looking at it. But anyway, if you could just reflect on that for a couple of minutes, and then maybe we'll report back with anything anybody wants to share.
I can go. I've actually never compared two sites side by side. So seeing the actual difference in data was really interesting to me, and it stood out based on their locations of how much I can have an impact on the community versus somewhere that's not as closely to a site that's not as close to such as a compact neighborhood. So I found that really interesting to be able to see that. And the data was really useful just to be able to see side by side what it looks like. And I think for my group, there was a lot of questions. And the best thing I think is being able to continue to engage the community and let them know about this, because it is answers to things that are out here. We just sometimes don't look at them.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to share?
I have anything else to share.
I think it was really interesting, or it would be really interesting to delve deeper into why there were spikes when we saw them. Like, was that a major event that was in the area, or was it the weather, or know, what was this?
Bucks are going.
Yeah, the Bucks were playing Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
or the fireworks, one thing,
Yeah.
my group was looking at, and some of the data a while ago was basically, looking, hey, it seems like the air quality's pretty bad today. Because right after the fireworks, New Year's Eve, and seeing that there was some spikes, right, from, which is expected.
I'd be curious to see what happens when there's like evacuations of the hurricane and then when the hurricanes happen and after, if that has an impact. Yeah. Events like that. A lot of people on the road before.
Right.
For us, always thinking about the youth. It's interesting for us to just sit and go through the exercise of eating now. But getting it into the schools and actually having those monitors where the children walk outside and determine what kind of questions they have. And get them more interested in the possibilities of what they might decide as they get older. One of the areas that are quite important for us.
I just put in the chat for the people online, if you want to speak, maybe use the raise hand feature online or unmute yourself so we know that you'd like to say something in this conversation.
Anyone online want to chime in? Any reflections? See, Paul, you're not.
This is Tim Shirk. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I believe that Mr. Abad's revelations about comparing Sydney with Ybor, Sydney, Florida, Sydney, far in the country versus HCC Ybor was very evocative because it showed the same trends, even though I'm sure that there's much less traffic near the Sydney location, which is pretty rural, as I recall, versus Ybor, which is obviously downtown or in Ybor. But it was interesting to see that. And I didn't necessarily expect that they would be so closely matched, at least in terms of highs and lows. One other thing that I brought up as a concern, we couldn't really address it with the data we have, is I'd like to know the impact of being inside versus outside. That was something that Young Hong brought up. The Purple Air monitors are so inexpensive. I'd like to see a Purple Air monitor installed very near a school to see what impact that air quality, that being inside has on air quality. That's just for me.
We don't currently have any inside monitors in this particular project, but yeah, definitely looking at what's the difference between inside and outside.
Yeah, because I know that we recommend during ozone events that kids go inside, say library, school, whatever. And although I know we're not monitoring ozone, it'd be nice to see what impact it has on PM 2.5.
Paul has his hand raised.
Paul,
I mean, it's kind of anecdotal, but whenever I pick up my kids during car line pickup and just like walking down the line of cars, and there's literally buses, won't turn their engines off. And then there's all the kids just sitting there breathing it, having even just like, having a monitor or something right there for like real time, like having a light that's like flashing red or green or whatever would be really cool. I know that's kind of outside the project, but that's just.
Some of the newer monitors do actually have a color coded thing that most of those are for indoor though, and rather than outdoor. But, putting that color coding on so you can see it, that would be pretty interesting. I mean, you can look at, we do have some schools in the network, so you can take a look at that during, drop off and pick up, what times those are. Just look and see if you see differences during those times. That would be something you could look at in the data. Anyone else?
No, this is Jim Shirkian. I just wanted to thank Paul for that because One thing that we're trying to do in the city of Tampa, or at least with the Walk Bike Project, is emphasize other ways of getting school kids to school besides having their mom or dad drive them. So it'd be really nice, it will be nice to take a look at the data for just those periods of pickup and drop off to see, because if we can say, look, if you get the kids walking to school, it saves them a lot of adverse air quality impacts. If you get them riding their bikes to school, it also saves that. So thanks a lot, Paul. Good job.
Thanks to all of you. All right, well, so I think we're ready to move on to the next kind of end, really. Okay, so that's all for the activity for today. Thank you very much for attending and for participating in this. For those of you who are hosting a monitor, please remember to take a look at that data kind of on a regular basis. This a weekly check reminder. That's my weekly check reminder. There's a check for you to look at the data on the website and ensure, for instance, I mean, part of it is for you to get familiar with the data if you're looking at it regularly. But then also there's the aspect of, hey, is it running? Is there any problem? And you can maybe troubleshoot that or let us know so that we can troubleshoot them and get them back up. And then finally, if you're interested in participating in a research survey about the network, there's a QR code here for that. My doctoral student, Leo, is doing some work to look at the impacts of the participation in this. So if you're interested, you're welcome to, we would very much welcome you to participate. And all right, I think that's all.
I think that's it. Thank you all for being here in person and virtually. If you would like to see the recording of the meeting, it will be posted online. It won't include the breakout groups, but it'll have the before and after. And we did take some notes during the breakout groups, so we'll have that information available. If you are here in person, when you leave, if you parked in the Pierce Street garage across the street, when you go downstairs, ask the security guard to escort you to the garage. They'll let you in the garage and you should be able to leave without any problem. There's no fee to park at night. Just make sure they let you into the parking garage building. I think, as always, if you know of a potential site, please reach out to our team and we'd be happy to either talk to you about that site, explore it, and also opportunities for education. We're always looking for events or other places that we can help work with the community and talk about this and get people's thoughts and perspectives. So thank you all again, and we'll see you hopefully at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.